We are back with an update of what's been going down in the Lori Vallow trial. As a reminder, we have one of our members of the 10 to Life team at the courthouse. She's been in the courtroom every day, getting real-time updates, tweeting on my new Twitter account, which apparently I have Twitter now. She's been tweeting the updates as they're happening over there on the Twitter account, and she's now staying for another week as well, as all of this has just been going down, and she's been a great resource of seeing not only the information that's being given and presented in the courtroom, but also the little nuances, like how Lori's reacting, her facial expressions, how the jury is reacting, and things like that. So needless to say, a lot of really interesting information as this entire saga continues. One of the main things that we've been talking about through all of the trial coverage is, will Lori blame Chad for this? Will she blame this all on being brainwashed? Is that what the defense is going to be? And if Lori is found not guilty, which I can't imagine that will be true given all that we have learned and some of the haunting evidence, but if she is found not guilty, is that then a slam dunk indicator that Chad will be found guilty? Are they going to flip on each other a bit? And when Chad's trial comes, although that's not set to start for quite some time, will he say that he did it all for love and Lori demanded this and that's what Lori wanted? It's going to be interesting. But anyways, we're going to go through all of the week 4 trial updates today in this video so that you can once again be fully caught up as we head into week 5 next week. So guys, my name's Elise, this is 10 to Life, and let's jump right in.
This is 10 to Life with Elise.
Week 4 of the Lori Vallow Daybell trial has concluded, and we are now heading into week 5. As a reminder, if you haven't been following this case and you don't even know where to start, or you just want a refresher, there are 2 episodes where we go through all of it, and we go through it all start to finish, very detailed. All you have to do is click on my podcast playlist on my YouTube homepage, on my YouTube homepage, and then you will see them. Or you can head over to wherever you listen to your podcast and just search for Serialously, and you'll find them there. For those of you who have been following, each week as we go, this week has been full of mic drop moments and damning revelations. Lori's appearance all week looked very similar to how she appeared in the hearings that were live streamed. Her hair was either down and naturally curly, or she had the sock curl look with a tiny piece of her hair pulled up in the front, kind of like a little, what is that, like a Shih Tzu dog in my opinion? Sorry, throwing some shade, Lori. But Lori was also paying attention in court. She is not behaving anything like Letitia, if you've been following the Letitia Stout trial. In fact, it's the complete opposite. She seems to be acting like she's not the one on trial here at all, and that she's a spectator or something like it. She writes a lot of notes, she pays attention to exhibits that are displayed on the screen in front of her, she chats with her attorneys, she makes small talk, and she even smiles with her attorneys during breaks, or even when someone is testifying. It really doesn't even matter to her. However, there were a few moments this week when she had major visible reactions, and we will get into those, so don't worry, just hang tight. But let's get into this week and break everything down, including all of the bombshell revelations, the key takeaways, the jury's behavior, Lori's behavior, other courtroom insight predictions, and predictions for next week, and my thoughts. We're going to go through all of it, and everything in between. Let's start with revelation number 1. The first revelation started out on Monday morning when a DNA analyst testified that a hair found on the duct tape from JJ was a 1 in 71 billion match to Lori. This is the first direct evidence that we have heard from the prosecution that directly ties Lori to JJ or Tylee's death. During the morning break of court, Larry Woodcock was overheard saying, "Now, is this not the best nail in the coffin this morning or what?" Revelation number 2 this week. Alex Cox, Lori's brother, had cell phone data location that linked him to Chad's property on the days that it's believed that Tylee and JJ were murdered, and also when Tammy was murdered. A special agent of the FBI walked through all of his location data and showed him at Yellowstone when the last known photo of Tylee was taken, and then tracked him to Lori's townhome between midnight and 3 a.m. on September 9th. Then, later that morning, he headed over to Chad's property. Alex's cell phone data not only showed that he was there, but the FBI was able to specifically pinpoint that he was by the pond. He left Chad's property 1 minute before Chad sent Tammy that infamous text message about burning limbs out by the pond, shooting a raccoon, and burying it in the pet cemetery. Alex's phone also showed him heading straight to Del Taco after leaving Chad's house. So, I don't know, did he work up an appetite or what? I would imagine that after you just commit murder or disposal of 2 kids' bodies, that you're not, your priority isn't a gordita crunch, but I don't know, I could be wrong. These people are just so truly disgusting, but the level of nonchalance with how they behaved will always be baffling to me. Revelation number 3. Similar location data was found on the day that it's believed JJ was killed and buried on Chad's property. Alex's phone pinged where JJ's gravesite was later uncovered. The FBI special agent said that Alex was in that area for 17 minutes before leaving. Then he added, "I was there the day we recovered JJ's body. I've seen that gravesite. It took way longer than 17 minutes to complete that burial job." So this directly coincides with testimony that we heard last week, where another FBI agent described that this was the most in-depth and meticulously carried out gravesite that he had ever seen in any of his investigations. The prosecution then asked him if 2 people could have carried out that job in 17 minutes. He responded by saying, "I guess anything is possible, but I highly, highly doubt it." Like I mentioned last week, we know that Chad used to be a professional gravedigger. So this testimony really makes me believe that Alex probably dropped off JJ's body in Chad's backyard. Maybe Alex helped him, maybe a little bit, maybe he didn't, I don't know. But it does lead me to believe that 100% Chad had a hand in physically burying JJ. Not only because of the duration and how quickly it happened, but also because of the manner in which he was buried, with the stones on top in a very professional way so that critters couldn't get to the remains and to preserve it in a sense. I have a gut feeling that Chad was responsible for that. Gross, disgusting Chad. So moving on to revelation number 4. The next witness was the medical examiner who had conducted the autopsy after Tammy Daybell was exhumed in Utah. He said that the cause of death was asphyxiation and the manner of death was homicide. The jury and the courtroom were also shown pictures of Tammy on her bed at home on the day she died, as well as shown autopsy photos. We previously had heard testimony last week that Chad said that he woke up at 5:40 a.m. because he heard a noise and thought that Tammy's leg must have fallen off the bed, since sometimes she sleeps with her legs outside of the comforter. Well, not only did this doctor say that's impossible and that deceased bodies don't move unless it's a minor movement in the late stage of the decomp process, but the level of stiffness and frozen temperature of her body is not consistent with somebody dying and then 20 minutes later being found. He estimates that Tammy would have been dead anywhere between a few hours up to 12 hours. Now get this, if she had been dead for a few hours up to 12 hours, guess whose phone location data pinpointed them in the vicinity of Chad's house the night before Tammy passed away, or in line with when she really did pass away? Alex Cox. From the pictures in the courtroom that were shown of Tammy, my team member in the court said that although she's obviously not a medical examiner, it's hard to believe that nobody questioned the timeline more in depth when the officers arrived at the scene and saw Tammy, because she really did look like she had passed away a long time before. There were already clear signs of discoloration under the eyes, and that doesn't happen within 20 minutes. The defense tried to argue that maybe the medical examiner got the cause of death incorrect. Unfortunately for the defense, though, he is actually the chief medical examiner of the state of Utah and has conducted over 7,000 autopsies and came off extremely credible. He said that they tested for every known toxic substance or poison known, and even sent samples to be tested at a biological weapons facility, and that everything came back negative, further confirming that Tammy died of asphyxiation. The autopsy photos of Tammy showed that she had bruises on her arm and shoulder, which were consistent with somebody being restrained, and it really did look like that. The bruises literally looked exactly like if someone grabbed your arm and had a thumb on your bicep, and then the other 4 fingers were wrapped around your arm, pressing on the tricep. And that was the exact pattern of these bruises. Now, Lori was looking at the floor the entire time while these autopsy photos were being shown. Revelation number 5. One of the witnesses was Alice Gilbert, who was one of Tammy and Chad's friends and neighbors. She also went to church with them and knew who they were as a couple. She was devastated to hear about Tammy's death. She went to the Daybell house and said that all 5 of Chad and Tammy's kids looked absolutely stunned by everything. But Chad didn't. She said that Chad was very businesslike. Tammy died on a Saturday morning, and Chad had already had the funeral arranged in Utah for Tuesday and the memorial on Wednesday. Alice and her husband went to the memorial where Chad spoke. She said he almost spoke like he was giving a sermon at church, and that it wasn't anything like how you would expect a speech when someone loses a spouse out of nowhere. Nothing like a true grieving eulogy. She said he didn't seem to be mourning at all, in fact. And then things got even weirder. 7 days after Tammy died, Chad brought Lori to Alice's house. He introduced her, and Alice said that the entire time that they were at her house, Chad could not keep his hands off of Lori. He had his arm around her, his arm on her leg, and they looked like hormonal teenagers, according to Alice. She was even embarrassed at one point due to their physical touching. Alice was horrified that Tammy had just passed away 7 days earlier, and here Chad is like nothing had happened at all. Alice tried to make conversation with Lori and asked her if she had been married before. Lori said yes, and that her husband passed away a year before due to a heart attack. Then Chad chimed in and said, "Oh yeah, and she recently lost a daughter." Lori sat there and made 0 attempts to correct him. And Alice said that Lori didn't say anything at all to that. Once Lori was arrested, Chad came back to Alice and to her husband and asked them, get this, to take out another mortgage on their house so he could bail Lori out of jail. Alice said that whenever Chad mentioned months before that Lori had a daughter that had passed away, she also didn't really ask the details about it and just assumed it must have been something horrible like an illness or freak accident. But this time, she says that she asked Chad and said, "Didn't you say that Lori had a daughter that passed away recently?" And Chad acted like he never said that. But Alice continued on, and as she was telling this story in court, her voice was breaking, and she began to cry. Alice said, "Well, where are the kids, Chad? Tylee is 17. Doesn't she want a job, a car, a boyfriend, a life?" And get this, Chad's response was, "She didn't like people, and she didn't like me." Alice started crying again even more on the stand and said that his response really bothered her, and she knew that Tylee was gone because Chad said it didn't, not doesn't. Throughout Alice's testimony, Lori was paying very close attention to Alice, and her face actually looked very serious. Alice's husband, Todd, testified next, and he said that he listened to a few of the podcast episodes between Lori and Melanie Gibb. The defense used that to get an exhibit of a 40-minute part of one of the Feel the Fire podcast episodes when Melanie, Lori, and 2 others spoke about their religious beliefs and how they came to know God. The audio was horrible. You could hear dogs barking in the background and a bird squawking, and it seemed like the defense just wanted to play that to get some statements in from Lori without her actually testifying herself. When the prosecution got a chance to redirect, Lindsay Blake asked Todd if any of the people in that podcast besides Lori have had their kids found dead in Chad's backyard. And Todd said, no, not that I'm aware of. This was a major mic drop moment in the court. That podcast clip completely backfired on the defense. And not only that, but the jury looked asleep, which is not like them at all because they usually are paying very close attention to everything. Some of the people in the courtroom during the breaks were locals to Rexburg and had traveled to watch this trial because they know so many people that either directly knew Chad or followed him. But they thought Alice and Todd believed more in what Chad was saying than they let on. And one person said, "I guarantee you they moved to Rexburg in 2017 to specifically live close to Chad. A lot of people moved to Rexburg to follow Chad." Revelation number 6. A woman named Audrey was called by the prosecution. She was a very good friend of Chad's and knew Lori through him. Now, just to preface a little bit of this, Audrey was drinking the Chad Kool-Aid very, very hard. And even throughout her testimony, there were moments where it seemed like she still believed a lot of it. She had a very soft-spoken, almost cliche way of speaking that you would associate with someone being in a cult. She also still believes that Jesus will return to Missouri. She said that Lori was the one that came up with the zombies and people being possessed, and that she had never heard that come from Chad before, either out of his mouth or before he started hanging out with Lori, which I think it's safe to say that while Lori is by no means innocent, Chad definitely came up with the people being possessed and being zombies, the dark spirits, the light spirits, all of that. Audrey also said that one time Lori made a direct threat to her.
And Lori and I were the only ones in her place at the time. And I told her that I was going to go upstairs and pack my bag and just go to bed early because I didn't want to spend more time with her. And as I went to go and do that, I asked her the question, "Is there anything weird going on that I don't know about?" And she said, "No. What do you mean?" And I said, "I don't know anything." And she said, "No." So I took her to word because I'm a trusting person. And as soon as I turned to start to go up the stairs, she started laughing, the kind of laugh as if you're laughing at someone or think something's hilarious. And she said to me, "You're so naive. I do trust you. You're like a little child. You'll believe anything anyone would tell you." And she said, "You think the world is all unicorns and rainbows. You go around helping people and serving them. Well, I've got news for you. Not everyone's a good person. And not everyone can afford to be so nice and kind." And then she said that
So I want to just focus on what threats she made to you.
She threatened to kill me.
Okay. Did she say how?
Yes. She said that she would cut me up. Something about that she wasn't in the mental place to do that, but that she would get herself in that place to be able to do it. But that she didn't want to have to because it'd be so messy and there'd be so much blood. And the bleach and something about trash bags. And that she would bury me where no one would ever find me.
Okay.
Lori was going off in her seat when Audrey said this. She looked pissed. Her jaw dropped, her eyebrows were raised, and then she had this like, "Oh really?" kind of look on her face, but extremely animated and mouthing off to her attorneys. And then almost doing a laugh and smile expression, like "This is such a ridiculous lie, you've got to be kidding me" kind of expression. During cross-examination, Jim Archibald really laid into the fact that Audrey has never brought this up to anyone ever, including a grand jury, ever before now, and that Chad was always the one acting like he was this exalted god with millions of years of past lives of being important and in front of people and all of these things.
And so you're saying she starts laughing and talks about unicorns and rainbows, and that she would cut me up and put me in trash bags.
So, yeah, she mentioned trash bags.
Why?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Did she ever say, I killed my kids and I'm going to kill you too?
Objection beyond the scope.
Overruled.
No, I knew nothing about her children.
Right. Did she say, I killed Charles and I'll kill you too?
She didn't talk about Charles.
Nothing like that, right?
She brought up being at the scene, watching someone take their last breaths.
And you have previously testified under oath, swearing an oath that you'll tell the truth. You have previously testified at a grand jury hearing. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember taking an oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And do you remember your testimony that you did not say anything like this?
I was scared, and she had said that if you ever tell anyone, I'll come and find you in the dark of night.
So you now want the jury to believe that even though you previously testified under oath and nothing of this sort was talked about, that you come here today and say you are so scared, that's why you didn't previously testify about it.
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
It's overruled.
What was your question?
You want the jury to believe that you just didn't make this last crap up,
I did not make it up.
but you acknowledge that you did not say this when you previously testified in support of probable cause, right?
Yes. Chad
Okay,
and Lori.
thank you. So when Chad told you about prior probations and prior lives, what did you think of that doctrine?
I wondered if there could be something to it.
And he said that he had been Methuselah. Is that right?
Yes.
And who is that?
He lived in the Old Testament and was a prophet.
The Chad Daybell told you, in a prior life of mine, I was a prophet named Methuselah in the Old Testament. He told you that.
Yes.
And you believed him.
Yes.
And in another prior life, Chad Daybell told you, I was an apostle of Jesus Christ. He told you that.
Yes.
And you believed him.
Yes.
So that's 2 prior lives. Did he tell you how many prior lives he had?
I don't remember how many he said.
Multiple.
Yes.
Many. Is that right?
Yes.
Over thousands of years.
Yes.
Over millions of years.
Yes.
Over billions of years.
I don't know.
Long time. That he was regenerating as all these great people. Right?
Yes.
Did he ever say, yeah, one of my prior lives I was a loser in the 1700s? Ever say anything like that?
No.
Yeah. All of his prior lives, he was someone great, someone cool, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know if I fully believe Audrey. I'm not 100% sure on this, so don't quote me. But I am pretty sure she talked to Chad almost daily after Lori's arrest, and talked to him after he was arrested as well. So even though she tried to distance herself from that in court, but again, I am only like 90% sure on this, so don't quote me. What I do know 100% is that Audrey was also a person that Chad said he was married to in a past life. So I have to wonder how much of her testimony was aimed at Lori, since Audrey is still single, Chad didn't want her, and they are friends. But that's just my opinion. If you kind of get where I'm going, I think that maybe she was told to say that this was all Lori and that it wasn't Chad, and maybe she was told that by Chad's camp. And maybe she did that because she's still trying to get in with Chad, if you know what I'm going with that. And if you get what I mean, gross. The thought of that is just absolutely sick. Sorry, I shouldn't cuss. So revelation number 7. Ian Pulowski, who is married to Lori's niece named Melanie, testified next. He said that as soon as he and Melanie got married, she immediately started dumping on him all of these things that she was worried about, including her ex-husband's shooting attempt by Alex. And he was extremely concerned about JJ and Tylee. Ian went to the Rexburg Police Department, and the FBI was apparently already there and spoke with him. And then Ian agreed to secretly record his new wife, Melanie, Lori, Alex, and Chad's conversations. They didn't play these conversations in court, however. Ian said that at first he was open to listening to what Lori and Chad were saying, but was quickly turned off when they started talking about law enforcement also being zombies. Specifically, the 2 zombies were Detective Hermosillo and Detective Hope, since they were the ones that came to do the welfare check on JJ and Tylee. What a coincidence that these 2 officers who are checking on the whereabouts of your kids now also are zombies and dark spirits and have to be getting rid of them, like, obviously. He said that one time he actually heard Lori say that she had beaten Satan, folded him up like a taco, and put him in a box, and then shipped him to Antarctica. Ian, during all of this, would not look at Lori at all. Revelation number 8. There has been some talk by people who knew Chad before he was arrested that said that Chad would describe Lori in almost a bragging way, saying things like, she's hot and rich. Okay, well, apparently Chad's income was only about $20,000 a year, so that makes a lot of sense why he made those comments. I knew he didn't make much money with his books, but it makes even more sense for there to have been some sort of financial motive for Lori to do all of this, because I don't see her downgrading her lifestyle if she had the choice not to. When Chad applied for new insurance after Tammy's death, he tried to add Lori to the policy, and when asked by the insurance agent if anyone else needed to be added or any kids, Chad said no. Going into revelation number 9. So remember how Tammy died on a Saturday? Chad showed up at the school districts that she was working at on Monday to try to file paperwork to collect her life insurance. The administrator told Chad she couldn't process that yet because she would need a death certificate, and thought it was extremely odd that he was already hyper-focused on that just a couple of days after Tammy died. Chad told her, "Oh, okay, that won't be a problem. I ordered 8 death certificates." Why on earth do you need 8? Revelation number 10. A police officer from Kauai testified and said that he was there the day that Rexburg Police Department flew in and asked Hawaii Police Department to serve Lori with the paperwork to produce her children in Idaho in 5 days. Body cam footage of this was shown to the court. Lori was laying poolside in a green bikini and sunglasses. Looked like she didn't have a care in the world. In the video, they hand Lori the paperwork, and she sits up, looks at it for about 30 seconds, and they ask if she has any questions. And she just says, "No, thank you." Like the same way you would respond to a waiter if they asked if you wanted a drink refilled. Just super nonchalant. Then officers stood there for a little longer. You can see Chad in swim trunks with no shirt. He pops up from laying down in the pool chair and is peeking over Lori's shoulder trying to read it. Lori looks over the paperwork for about 60 more seconds maybe, and she's flipping through all of the pages. The officers asked her again if she had any questions, and she said no. Now the whole encounter was so unbelievable because of just how completely unbothered Lori looked. Her children are dead, which she knows since we heard on that call to Summer when she was getting married in Hawaii that it was months after. And here is an order to produce JJ and Tylee, who are in her new husband's backyard. And she's acting like this, acting like she doesn't care at all. She's just working on her tan. It was so bizarre to watch, apparently. Lori had her head down while this was playing the entire time. Officers also seized Lori's car 2 days later, where they found Tylee's debit card, an iPad with big red letters on the back that said JJ, 14 copies of Charles's death certificate, multiple copies of Tylee's birth certificate, and JJ's birth certificate from before the adoption and after, along with several laptops, more iPads, and an envelope in a plastic bag with about $5,500 in it. Revelation number 11. Friday was a shorter day in court. The state called FBI Special Agent Douglas, and he has been involved in the investigation since the very beginning. He started off by going through the day that JJ was found on Chad's property. The court was shown pictures of the grounds where JJ was buried, and to the average person, it would be difficult to find. But this guy had experience in locating these grave sites on Indian territories too. He just knew what he was doing. So once he pointed out the differences in the grass color, the indentations on the ground, and the way certain tree roots were cut, it was clear that this was a small, child-sized grave. They also showed pictures of the rocks that were found above the wooden boards. The boards were similar to 2x4 boards. Then Special Agent Hart moved on to what they found on one of Lori's iCloud accounts. By January 2019, 6 months before Charles's murder, Lori and Chad were already talking about their plan to be together. Special Agent Hart said that he located messages between Lori and Chad where they were discussing obstacles that they needed to get rid of for their plan to be together, and the obstacles were Charles, Tammy, JJ, and Tylee. The courtroom wasn't shown these text messages yet, but those will probably come in on Monday. It's important to note that he said that Chad was the one who used the label obstacles. Also, text messages between Lori and Alex and Lori and Chad were shown before and after Charles's death. Lori compared herself and Alex to someone in the Book of Mormon who was commanded by God to kill someone, and said that they would be like him when taking on Charles. He also went through the horrific and heartless texts that Lori sent Charles's sons after Charles died, when she never told them how he died, and then ignored their messages for days because it was a hard time for her too. Well, what he hadn't seen before was that Lori was busy ignoring Charles's kids because Chad was sending the most cringe-worthy text messages of all time. He is such a pathetic loser, and let me just read you a few of these texts here. July 14th, 2019, 3 days after Charles was killed. These are the texts between Chad and Lori. Chad, good morning, my most beautiful Lily. Thanks for joining me in the shower this morning. Wow. Getting ready to leave for my meetings. Does noon your time look like a time we could talk? I love you so immensely, and soon all of the people on the globe will know. Again, a message from Chad. I love you so much. You are my greatest desire and best friend. Now on with the story. Then again, another text message exchange. And these are just like absolutely vile and cringy in my opinion. Chad says, I want to kiss you all over, which will likely lead to other activities. Lori responds, likely or luckily? Ew. Chad responds, it would luckily lead to nakedness. Now, first of all, gross. Like, I want to vomit. But second of all, these texts, these exchanges where they're like sexting each other, it's honestly so gross to think about. Gross. That was all happening while she was ghosting Charles's children after Charles had just been murdered. It is absolutely revolting. So whenever Chad said, thanks for joining me in the shower, Lori was in Arizona. So Agent Hart said that there were multiple messages like this, where they clearly weren't physically together, but would send messages to each other and act as though they had teleported. And the on with the story reference was a reference to Chad's erotic romance novel he wrote about James and Elena, which is based on him and Lori. So what he meant was like, oh, on with the story, as in, let's get to the rest of our lives. Chad also sent excerpts of certain paragraphs of this novel to Lori. The court was not shown any of the loins of fire yet, but I think it's coming, unfortunately, which, God, I hope we all have barf bags. So because court planned to end at noon on Friday, the rest of his testimony will resume on Monday. For so long, the biggest question has been, what exactly was Lori's involvement? And so far, I still don't know the answer. Did she just sign off on her kids being murdered? Did she know that her children were going to suffer? Did she sign off on the burial? Did she know the heart-wrenching and unimaginable way that Alex planned on killing JJ that we talked about last week? Or was she under a completely different impression? Not that it would make any of it any better, but if you're not a total monster, wouldn't you at least want people to hear your side of the story? On the phone calls with Colby and Summer, Lori constantly said, you don't know, you weren't there, nobody knows except for me, and you think I did that? Okay, well if you didn't, tell us, Lori, you have our attention, go ahead, tell us what happened. I understand that defendants in our justice system have their Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate themselves and cannot be compelled to testify. When defendants choose to remain silent and not testify in court, the jury is told that their decision not to testify cannot be used against them during deliberation or affect the jury's decision. Well, guess what? I'm not the jury, and I am judging. I am hard. At this point, if Lori truly believed Chad and thought that she was doing the right thing by freeing her children's souls, truly thought that the world was coming to an end, or had no idea of the grisly and heinous way that her children were disposed of, or anything like that, I cannot for the life of me understand why she wouldn't testify to at least try to explain to the world, or even her family, that she is not Satan reincarnated. I do not understand it. Would the prosecution eviscerate her? Yeah, absolutely. But aren't they doing that already? And not for nothing, but they are doing a pretty good job of it. This week, the jury truly looked like they were mind blown with all of this new information, with the videos and the testimony. They are extremely attentive and took detailed notes constantly. Things don't look good for Lori at all, and certainly by some of their expressions and looks, the jury doesn't look like they like her at all. They have a direct view of Lori and are able to see everything she does, and they are definitely watching her. But you never know how a jury will act and what they will decide. The DNA evidence of her hair is definitely damning, don't get me wrong here, but it could be argued. It wouldn't be uncommon for one of my hairs to be found on one of my kids' clothing, sure. In my opinion, the prosecution is close, but they really need to deliver one final blow, because other than that DNA, there is nothing so far linking Lori to specifically knowing about or planning Tylee and JJ's murders. And maybe that will be discussed and shown on Monday or the days to follow. But my take on it is that Alex and Chad are definitely by far the most implicated in doing the actual dirty work. I know it's a conspiracy charge, and even the prosecution defined conspiracy by using the example, if someone robs a bank, but you don't actually go into the bank, but you drive the getaway car, you're guilty of conspiracy to rob a bank. So my question is, was Lori driving the getaway car, so to speak? Or was she at the house afterward when the robbers came back and she just didn't ask too many questions about what had happened? I don't know, but I am definitely hoping we get even more incriminating evidence this next week. And I think once we get to see those text messages about the obstacles, that maybe that will answer the question of Lori's involvement once and for all. I want to know what you guys think about this, so definitely let me know your thoughts on the prosecution, how they're doing, and so far what you think about the testimony in this case. Is it a slam dunk? Also, our researcher and team member who has been in the courtroom will be in there again next week. She did catch up on Friday afternoon with Brian Enton outside of the courtroom. Brian Enton is a correspondent for News Nation and always gives fantastic coverage, in my opinion. So here's a quick snippet of that conversation.
What did you think of this week, and what are your thoughts so far?
I mean, it was really like just a disturbing week overall to hear all the details about what was happening, like behind the scenes, new details, things we haven't seen. I was really disturbed by the video we'd never seen before from Hawaii that showed Lori in the bikini out there by the pool with Chad when the police came and served the warrant saying, you know, tell us where the children are, and she just looked so nonchalant about the whole thing. Today, it was former Special Agent Douglas Hart on the stand, who was really the lead investigator over the case, revealing all these text messages between Lori and Chad. Way before Tammy died, they were talking about loving each other. Right after Charles Vallow died, they were talking about loving each other and being intimate. Just really disturbing to see all of that in black and white. So I expect he'll be on the stand again Monday. And then it seems like the prosecution will likely wrap the case, their side of the case, pretty soon.
And hopefully we'll get more of his insights on this channel in more of an official way in the coming weeks. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Let's head into week 5 of trial next week and see what happens. It's going to be a wild one. And hopefully Lori can't squeeze her way and weasel her way out of this, but we'll see. I've seen crazier things happen. All right, guys, thanks again for tuning in. And until the next one, stay safe.